6:37 morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Let's take a look at today's front pages. And the Sunday Express. You ain't seen nothing yet. The Express says Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng has much more to come as part of a true blue Tory revolution.
The Observer leading on Keir Starmer's plans for Britain. He's set to unveil a green growth strategy to try to counter Liz Truss's tax cuts.
The Sunday People is focusing on the British man released in a prisoner swap with the Russians. Sean Pinner, do you remember him, who was captured whilst fighting in the Ukrainian city of Mariupol, said the first thing to put a smile on his face was an Egg McMuffin from McDonald's.
You sort of understand that.
Oh, you say can, can't you? Yeah.
Let's go through the papers this morning with anthropologist Mariana Hotter and editor of Spiked Online, Tom Slater. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Let's kick straight off with the Sunday Telegraph, Tom, and some Trussonomics.
Yes, so Truss plans to cut taxes again in the new year. You're already alluding to it there in the rundown. Really sort of doubling down on the strategy that they laid out at the mini budget, or the not-so-mini budget this week.
What other taxes would be cut?
So what we're talking about is a kind of mix of reforms to income tax, savings and child benefits. Again, we're kind of largely talking about higher earners. So workers who earn more than £100,000 will be given full income tax personal allowance. Also, in terms of people who earn more than £50,000 will be able to, would be able to earn more than £50,000 and still claim child benefits. So trying to essentially, I think the theory is to remove the disincentives from earning more, very much in line with what they've been doing previously. But again, I think those questions still remain as to whether or not any of this is going to work as stimulating the economy in the way that they claim. And also whether or not, especially when an election actually rolls around, voters, particularly in those red wall seats that gave them that majority, will wear it, given it seems very unpopular, these kinds of provisions with those people in those constituencies.
And Marianne, it's not just money that we're talking about. We're talking about Liz Truss's plans for immigration, lifting the level at which
so she is. It's a big gamble, of course. The markets are responding accordingly by going haywire. But you kind of, some of the tax cuts are going to massively, potentially alienate all the people who don't earn 100 grand a year. But there's also the kind of very traditional Tory Brexiteer group of folk who might also be annoyed by the next bit of planning, which is to lift restrictions on immigration.
Seems a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Well, there's a massive shortage of workers, so specifically people in care homes, nurses, seasonal fruit and veg pickers, who all were people who came from the EU. Wages were low. They were happy to, in many circumstances, kind of live in quite sort of straitened means to save money, and sort of basically kept the wheels turning, and we don't have those people now. So
we also need skills
shortages,
don't we?
Oh, that's
highly skilled.
Exactly. Some people are those are manual labour jobs, but some are skilled work, like a nurse. I mean, it takes years and years to.
So haven't we always accepted we need acceptable levels of immigration? It's just what some people call acceptable.
Well, there's the question. So apparently, Kwasi Kwarteng, the Chancellor, and Liz Truss both kind of embrace and are championing the idea that the right kind of immigration fuels economic growth, and it's absolutely essential for a country like the United Kingdom, because we're an island nation. People have to come to us. But then you've got other quite strong characters in the new cabinet: Suella Braverman, Kemi Badenoch, Jacob Rees-Mogg, who are much more of the kind of, I'm putting words into their mouths, we don't want too many people here, because actually it will cause more trouble than it will, than the problems it will solve. So at the moment, Liz Truss, I think immigration is a big driver for growth.
Well, I mean, if immigrants are here legally and they're working and paying taxes, then how can you argue that they could possibly be bad? So maybe we don't have enough housing.
Well, that was the whole question around. That was one of the things that came up in Brexit. You know, people say we don't want those people, whoever those people were, and you go, but those people are the person who's your cleaner, or maybe the person who works in the local coffee shop, and is the nurse, and is the care home worker who's looking after your nan. Which of those people don't you want? The person who picks the veg that ends up in the supermarket? which of those people is it that you don't want to be there? And people go, and it becomes a kind of a symbolic idea that this idea of foreigners coming and taking our jobs
but I think
is the issue.
But that's because we've been in the mindset, haven't we, of free movement of people from the EU, which is what people found very problematic. And
that isn't really how it works. Because there's push and pull factor.
I'm very pro-immigration as well, but it's quite clear that the reason that so many big businesses and so many companies and so on have been lobbying for this because they have become very reliant on very cheap labour, and that is one of the things which, especially in a context in which people, even before this kind of current economic catastrophe that we're in the middle of, were suffering flatlining living standards, squeezed wages and all the rest of it, and difficulty for their children to get on the housing ladder, etc., etc. In that context, you can understand why people would start to be concerned about newcomers coming here. I think there's an argument to be won there, but you can't dismiss those concerns necessarily.
I think the thing that seems to be missing from my perspective in what they're kind of rolling out as this transformational programme of change is exactly that, Tom, addressing the skills shortage of people in the UK. So whether that's upskilling people so that they can do more technical, more skilled work, whether that's helping those youngsters who've had, chaotic years in lockdown, where training, where education has been, turned upside down, to kind of do more things, more interesting things better, so that actually sort of plugs into the UK productivity issues, because we're not very productive as a nation, and it's been this intractable problem. No one quite knows how to solve it. But
maybe we should
surely
use this blanket term immigrants
to train up our youngsters to be brilliant.
It's the blanket term immigrants that turns people off, isn't it? If you actually called them potential working people who will pay taxes.
And it's worth noting.
It makes them very different, doesn't it?
And I think the public are quite a lot more sophisticated on this question than people would give them credit for.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had very high immigration since Brexit, and particularly high-skilled immigration, in large part from India, Nigeria, places like this. People haven't been that concerned about that because their concern was that it seemingly picture, and I think people often allow. Story about essentially all of the special home comforts and foods that the England football team are requesting ahead of them going to Qatar. Baked beans are very high up the list. Red and brown sauce.
Are they taking baked beans with them?
No, hot.
Oh, right.
Apparently, the facilities there in Qatar are such that they can provide baked beans, Yorkshire tea, PG tips as well, favourite chocolate, in order to, again, allow...
Most other countries don't understand our chocolate, do they?
No.
Let alone the baked beans.
No.
That's particularly baffling.
Well, that is an obvious one for anyone watching right now. GBNEWS at GBNEWS.uk. What is the food that you absolutely can't do without when you go abroad or live abroad? And if you're living abroad at the moment, do get in touch. What can't you live without? I know when I used to take the kids a lot to Florida for holidays, and there was an enormous shopping mall very near us, and nearly half of it was just for Brits. They had everything from Jacob's cream crackers, which the Americans don't understand at all, right through to PG tips and baked beans, but particularly Cadbury's chocolate as well.
Really?
The thing about chocolate, though, is that I think, is this right? It's partly about the making process that makes it taste different. Like American chocolate tastes weird.
Dreadful, yeah.
But it's partly about the melting point, so that you can have higher temperatures if you're in a hot country like Qatar. You don't want to take your bar of dairy milk and then basically it's just liquid inside the packet. So maybe they're going to have to provide suitable refrigeration.
I'm sure they won't be short of a fridge in Qatar. I'm sure they'll manage. Oh yeah, but baked beans. Don't know what it is. A tin of baked beans or tomato soup.
Tomato soup, yes. The tinned stuff. Is it a hangover from the war when everything had to be tinned, and we became a nation of tinned food eaters? I don't know.
There's something just very comforting about it. Beans on toast.
Beans on toast is one of the simplest, most brilliant meals.
The other day, I had picked up a tin of beans from the supermarket. I picked up the one that had no added sugar. It had some weird kind of, I don't know, what a sweetener. It didn't taste right.
No.
Oh, you see, I buy the no added sugar one.
Really? No, it doesn't taste right.
Well, you've got used to the taste, obviously, but I'm the same as you. It has to be the original, doesn't it?
If you're going to do it properly.
Yeah, I did have a look because I popped to the co-op last night and just had to, because I needed some beer, so I went to the co-op. But I bought some beans. I wanted to buy the 4-pack because it was a lot cheaper than buying the individuals, but they didn't. They only had the 4-pack in the original beans.
They're the best ones.
Yeah, but when I thought, well, I'll just see what the difference is. 60 calories more
For the original.
per tin. In the original.
Because that's sugar. It is sugar.
It is just
60
sugar.
calories isn't very much, though.
Yeah, but it's added carbohydrate and things, so it's like, no, so I got the no sugar ones, lowest sugar ones. They're fine,
It's a glamorous life, isn't it?
that we lead. Oh, isn't it just?
You pop it out for a tin of baked beans at night.
Pop me
Do
tracksuits.
they say to you, hey, I hear you off the telly, what are you doing buying a can of baked beans?
Oh, I'm always popping in the co-op round the corner. It's they're used to seeing me now.
I'll bet. Can we learn about what's happened to the Eiffel Tower?
Well, everyone's feeling the pinch, including the City of Lights. So this is news that the 20,000 bulbs that light up the Eiffel Tower, and they come on slightly randomly, so it looks all twinkly. Up until now, they get turned off at 1 a.m. Yesterday, they got turned off at 1:45 midnight.
Good grief.
Money saving.
Oh.
I know.
Is that the reason?
Apparently. So now, but it's kind of symbolic, to kind of show willing. Maybe it's partly about the climate crisis as well, I don't know. I think it's mostly about saving money. Other monuments that are lit up in Paris are going to go dark at 10 p.m. So people all the kind of little street sellers and cafes nearby who...
But life in Paris goes well on beyond 10 o'clock at night.
They do, but you're going to have to just do it without the thing lit up behind you.
Can't they do solar-powered lights or something?
Apparently not. And municipal swimming pools, they're going to be turned down the thermometer from 27 degrees to 26 degrees. So you're going to have to do a bit more swimming to keep warm.
Well, I don't think that's not too bad, is it? 26 degrees is all right.
But they always say, don't they, if you turn your thermostat down just 1 degree, it can save a lot. And we're all going to have to think about that this winter.
Well, I should be saving a fortune then, because my heating's not going on.
At all. You wait.
This
Forgotten
winter.
how cold winter gets.
Not going on.
It might get a bit damp inside
I've got a fire in the lounge, so light the fire, shut the door, and then just heat that one room heated, and that's it.
Live in that room.
Yeah.
You remember like a little pot of embers up to bed? Like the other days.
Heating
Yeah.
In a warmer pan, that's what they used to do, always, And do you remember, I mean, it used to be like that you used to huddle around a fire. The front of you was toasty hot.
Freezing.
Freezing,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's nothing you could do about that at all.
Oh, yeah. Well, so you have to turn your back to the fire after a while.
You have to rotate like something on a spit.
Maybe there'll be a kind of a revival of those kind of old-fashioned high-backed armchairs, because that's why, isn't it? It's to keep the draft out. Yeah, that's why you've got a wing back,
Those are lovely, those high-back armchairs.
Yeah, they're good. None of these kind of like mid-century kind of lounging things.
High-back armchairs.
We should get some for the set.
Oh, I'd love one now.
Nice.
Just kind of perched in your leather thrones.
They were thrones, but maybe there was a very good reason for that. As you say, they were upholstered right up here. Wing chairs, weren't they? They have wings.
Nice.
Lovely.
There's a nice antimacassar on.
Oh, nice, just to keep your pomade off the
Lovely old-fashioned terms.
In Orkney, there's a tradition for like really old chairs where you had a peat fire, and that was it. I thought where you will or just get really cold. Where it's got a full, it's basically like a big wicker basket that you sit in. And traditionally, it was the kind of the elder man and the mum and dad of the house who would get the high chair. And then everyone else would get smaller and smaller chairs, further and further away from the fire.
Oh, there you go.
That's how we're going to be.
Bring it back.
Nothing necessarily wrong with it.
Elaine's been in touch and says we'd love to see you popping into our local co-op buying your beer and beans.
Beer and beans.
That's where you live, Elaine. Yeah, beer and beer, that's what it boiled down to.
It were a beer and bean supper last night, were it?
It were.
Apologies to whomever has an accent like that.
Well, you weren't far wrong there.
I don't know what I was.
It's all right.
No idea what I was. I've been sitting next to you too long.
Anyway, look, you two will catch up with you a little bit later on. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.